In 2001, the journal Science published findings that overturned the history of the entire Americas. Peruvian archaeologist Ruth Shady announced she had found a city. Not a village, not a hamlet, not a temple compound, a full city, with pyramids, plazas, residential quarters, and amphitheater. And this city was older than the pyramids of Giza. Caral-Supe, northern Peru, a river valley in the desert. Until then, scholars had been certain. Civilization in the Americas began with the Olmecs, around 1500 BC. Before that, all inhabitants of the New World were fishers and foragers. No cities, no pyramids. Caral was founded in 2627 BC, 1,000 years earlier than it should have been. While Old Kingdom pharaohs were raising pyramids on the Nile, another civilization on the other side of the planet was doing the same thing, and we knew nothing about it. But Caral had one thing that set it apart from all its contemporaries. There was no war in it. Across the 1,000 years of its existence, not a single defensive wall, not a single weapon, not a single depiction of battle, not a single skull with marks of violence, not a single skeleton of someone killed. The oldest civilization in the Americas built itself without war. These are its streets. Caral stands in the Supe River Valley, 200 kilometers north of Lima, the modern capital of Peru. This is desert. Harsh, sunburned desert of the South American Pacific coast. Rain almost never falls. Life is possible only along the rivers that descend from the Andes to the ocean. These rivers are narrow green ribbons in an ocean of sand. And in one of those ribbons, in the Supe Valley, in 2627 BC, something begins that has never existed in these lands before. Someone begins to plan a city. 6 platform pyramids, the largest, Pirámide Mayor, 30 meters tall, 150 meters at the base. Compared to the Pyramid of Khufu, small. Compared to anything in the Americas before it, impossible. Several circular plazas, square spaces sunk into the earth with perfect acoustics. Residential quarters, an amphitheater, storage facilities, a road system. About 3,000 people lived in Caral itself. Another 20,000 in a surrounding network of 25 settlements scattered across 3 neighboring valleys, all of them connected by trade, all of them following one religious tradition, all of them building the same kind of pyramids. This was the first full civilization of the Americas, and it flowered in complete isolation from the rest of the world. At the same time, across the Atlantic, Egypt was building the Great Pyramid. In Mesopotamia, Sumerian cities were already writing in cuneiform. In the Indus Valley, Mohenjo-Daro was just beginning. None of them knew of the other's existence, and none of them knew of Caral. Enter Caral. The road leads you up from the riverbank along a dry slope. The city is visible from a distance. White stepped pyramids against the brown desert, with the green of the valley below. The city is divided into 3 parts. Upper Caral, the sacred zone. Here stand the main pyramids. Here live the priests and the elite. The houses are large, whitewashed, with spacious interior courtyards. Lower Caral, the residential district. Houses are smaller, more densely packed, closer to the river. Here live the craftsmen, the traders, the fishers coming up the river from the coast carrying cotton. And between them, the main plaza, Pirámide Mayor, and the sunken circular plaza. Walk up to the plaza. It is a perfect circle, sunk 4 meters below ground level, 28 meters in diameter. Stone steps around the perimeter. Several concentric rings of benches. This is an amphitheater. People came here to listen. Here, music was played. Archaeologists found 32 musical instruments at Caral. flutes carved from the bones of condors and pelicans, horns made from the bones of llamas and deer, conch shells turned into trumpets. Music played in this city constantly. It was not entertainment. It was part of religion. It was part of how people were governed. Walk to the foot of Piramide Mayor, 30 meters of stone and reed stacked into a giant stepped platform. A staircase in the center of the facade leads to the top. At the summit, a temple chamber with an altar. And the most remarkable thing, inside this pyramid, there is no solid stone masonry. The pyramids of Caral were built from shikra, large bags woven from plant fiber and filled with stones. These bags were stacked like bricks and formed the internal structure of the pyramid. When an earthquake occurred, and in Peru they happen constantly, the bags absorbed the shock. 5,000 years ago, the inhabitants of Caral invented earthquake-resistant architecture. Their pyramids still stand. Most pyramids of the same age around the world do not. The biggest mystery of Caral is what is not in it. There are no defensive walls, no military towers, no moats or earthworks, no weapons stores, no arsenals, and there is not a single depiction of war. Scholars studied every painting, every carving, every figurine and statuette found in Caral, and the 25 settlements connected to it. Everywhere, images of animals, plants, people in ritual poses, musicians, dancers, men and women in ordinary life. Nowhere a single warrior, not a single battle scene, not a single victor over the defeated. The skeletons found in the excavations also speak of peace. No marks of weapon trauma, no mass graves, no severed heads or amputated limbs. 1,000 years of civilization, and not a single sign that this civilization ever made war. There is nothing like this anywhere else in the world. All the other early civilizations, Mesopotamia, Egypt, India, China, left rich traces of wars. Epics about battles, military armor, frescoes of pharaohs striking down enemies. Caral is the only known civilization whose foundation was not war. How did this work? Archaeologists believe society was held together by religion and by trade. The priests of the pyramids coordinated the ritual year. Who works the fields when? Who repairs the irrigation canals when? Who carries cotton from the coast when? This coordination gave them power, and power based on religion did not require an army. If you are obedient to the gods, you do not need to fear soldiers. The second mystery, the quipu. In 2005, in the ruins of Caral, Ruth Shady found a bundle of braided cords with knots. It was a quipu, the system of recording information by means of knots that the Inca would use thousands of years later. The Caral knots are the oldest known quipu in history. What was recorded on it, unknown. The quipu is still not fully deciphered, even the Inca one. Possibly numbers, possibly names, possibly entire texts organized by a system of colors, types of knots, and distances between them. If that is true, the civilization of Caral had its own form of writing thousands of years earlier than we thought. Around 1800 BC, Caral ended. It did not burn, it was not conquered. It did not die out from epidemic. It was not destroyed by earthquake. It simply ended. Over about 200 years, the inhabitants gradually left the city. Houses emptied. Pyramids stopped being maintained. Roads grew over. Canals silted up. What happened? The main theory, climate. Around 1900 BC, the region entered a long mega El Niño cycle, a series of catastrophic ocean anomalies. Warm water off the coast of Peru drove the anchovies, the protein base of Caral's diet, into colder waters to the south. Fishermen had nothing to catch. Trade with the coast collapsed. In parallel, heavy rains began in the upper Andean river systems. The rivers carried enormous quantities of silt. Irrigation systems, on which Caral's agriculture was based, clogged. Canals stopped working. Without fish and without fields, the city could not feed itself. And the inhabitants of Caral left. Not to one place, to many. Some stayed in the valley, in smaller settlements. Some moved to neighboring valleys. Some went farther, north, south, into the mountains. And each group took with them what they knew. Knowledge of pyramids, knowledge of circular plazas, knowledge of shikra bags, knowledge of quipu, knowledge of how to organize a society without war. This knowledge did not disappear. It passed from civilization to civilization. 1,000 years after Caral, in the Andes, the Chavin culture rose. Their pyramids were built by the same logic. Their circular plazas, almost copies of those at Caral. Their music used the same instruments. After Chavin, Moche. After Moche, Wari and Tiwanaku. After them, the Inca. All of them inherited what Caral began. When the Spanish came to Peru in the 16th century and met the Inca, they saw a civilization with pyramids, with circular plazas, with quipu, with religious coordination. The same thing that had been in Caral, 4,000 years later. Caral did not disappear. It simply dispersed across all of the Andes. Today, Caral is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It was added to the list in 2009, 8 years after the publication that proved its age. There are few tourists. It is hard to reach. Desert, bad roads, no facilities.
As you can see, the Pyramide Mayor dominates the skyline here.
The circular plaza with its famous acoustics.
Now, if
a
you listen
museum
closely,
with reconstructions. And Ruth Shady. She is still the chief archaeologist of the project. She has been digging for 30 years. Most of Caral, about 80%, is still in the ground. But the discovery of Caral changed more than we realize. When we speak of early civilization, we are used to thinking of war, that societies had to fight to develop, that hierarchy is born of violence, that kings are needed to lead armies, that cities arise for defense. Caral proved that this is not necessary. For 1,000 years, a full 1,000 years, people lived in cities, built pyramids, traded across the mountains, played music, organized society, without war, without armies, without weapons,
May the harvest be
without a
plentiful.
hierarchy based on fear. This does not mean it was an idyll. They may have had a harsh religious system. The priests may have manipulated the people.
What do we want?
There may have been inequality, poverty, hunger.
The data suggests
But they
that
did
the
not
pathways
make
to
war.
enduring peace remain
It was
elusive.
possible, and it worked
Despite
for
our progress,
1,000 years.
the fundamental questions of peace
4,500
and
years
conflict
after
remain
Caral
unanswered
was
today.
abandoned, we are still arguing. Can civilization exist without violence? Is hierarchy possible without oppression? Is
The answer
order
is
possible without
yes.
the sword? Somewhere in the Peruvian desert, beneath a hill, beneath a layer of dry dust, lies the answer. The answer is yes, and it lived for 1,000 years in the valley of the Supe River.